Morning Church. It's Pastor Mike. As we often do on Wednesdays, I wanted to bring our devotion this morning from our Tuesday night Bible study. Last night we were reading Matthew 18. We were looking at these stories and these teachings of Jesus about what it means to forgive one another. And Jesus tells a story that tries to illustrate just the kind of attitude that we should have whenever we go to forgive our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters, our church family, or whoever it might be. And he tells a story about a servant who owes his master 10,000 talents. Now, to put some perspective on 10,000 talents, that's more money than any person could hope to make in 100 lifetimes. Herod the Great only had a yearly income of 900 talents, and this servant owes his master 10,000. So this is an impossible number for him to ever pay back, but the master looks at him with pity and with mercy and forgives the entire debt and sends him on his way. But that same servant who's just been forgiven an impossible debt goes to his neighbor and demands a much smaller payment be made to him, something that he was owed, and he throws that other servant in prison until he can get his money back. Of course, this doesn't end well for that first servant. The master calls him back, calls him wicked, and sends him to the jailers saying, "You didn't appreciate what I did for you. How can you go and demand that from your neighbor?" And we might see, especially when it's broken down in terms of money, just how nonsensical that servant really is being. After being forgiven trillions of dollars of debt in today's money, he goes and shakes down his neighbor for 20 bucks. And we say, well, that just seems ridiculous. But isn't that exactly what happens whenever we fail to forgive those around us when they hurt us or offend us in some way, even though we have been forgiven by God for so much more? For sins against God himself, for a hurtful spirit, a prideful attitude, all the things that we have done in our lives, and we go when we are contrite and broken to God and ask for forgiveness, and he offers it free of charge. He offers us forgiveness because he loves us. But then whenever somebody says an unkind word to us, or cuts us off on the street, or does something mean to us, we fail to forgive them. And instead, we hold that grudge like it's some kind of currency in our relationship with them. God calls us to a different way, a better way of interacting with our family, our friends, and our neighbors. A way of grace and mercy. God says, first, set your eyes on what I have done for you, the grace I have shown you. And once we get that in our view, we cannot help but look at every other situation that happens in life through that lens. The lens of, I have been forgiven for so much. I can be gracious to this person or that person. I can forgive time and time again because I know that the well of my forgiveness doesn't run dry because it is constantly being refilled by God who forgives me. At the core of it, forgiving someone else means that we are sure we have enough. Whether it be money, provision, or pride itself, we know that what we have is sufficient for the day ahead because God provides it. So take hope in the fact that God loves you, forgives you, and calls you forward into a new way of being. Don't let the old standards and the old way of life infect this new, transformational, radical way of looking at our neighbors and not counting wrongs and counting debts, but instead looking and loving and being reconciled each moment that we have the opportunity. God bless you today. Follow in his path and experience his blessings today and forevermore.